computer. Good afternoon, everyone. It's 1:01 Central Time. That means that it's time for emergency preparedness support for hospice and home health agencies across Mississippi and Louisiana. And we are in the midst of Tropical Storm Bertha, which is now coming across New Orleans, it seems, because the winds have definitely picked up here in Metro New Orleans. And I am recording this, but I've asked Allison Hughes in Region 2 to back me up on recording because I've already lost power twice now in the past 30 minutes with the rising winds. So I just want to warn you, if I go away for some reason, please continue this conversation because it will be recorded for folks who can't join us today. I want to thank you all for joining us this afternoon as we talk about or focus in on Region 4, which is Metro Lafayette, that area in Southwest Louisiana. And I'm very, very happy to have a number of our experts, our emergency preparedness managers in Region 4 on today's call. I just want to set up the conversation around the parishes for Lafayette, Evangeline, St. Landry, Acadia, St. Martin, Iberia, Vermilion, and also St. Mary gets included. Some portions of St. Mary, I understand, gets included in Region 4's preparation. So that's why I've included St. Mary. So these are the Region 4 GOSEF contacts for your records, folks that are in charge from the Governor's Office of Homeland Security. And GOSEF has put out this guide. Thank you for sending me this information. You can always use the QR code and download that guide. And this is an incredible little tool that was sent to me, and I've actually had it blown up in poster size, and it now hangs above my desk. It's a quick reference. It gives you parish contacts. Many of you, your service area includes many parishes, and so this is a quick way of making sure that you have all of the contacts that you need with regards to emergency management in your neck of the woods. However, we always want to emphasize ESF 8. Those are emergency support functions. 8 is medical. And in Region 4, these are really the folks that we as healthcare providers will be running all of our issues through. They're the folks that help us make sure that our patients are safe in their region, that they're aware of. These are the folks who get the at-risk registry reports, in addition to all of the emergency managers in each parish in Region 4, and every parish in every county in Mississippi, and every parish in Louisiana as well. But these are the folks that really focus in on the medical issues for Region 4, and that's why I'm giving you that information here. In terms of your parish administrators, your emergency managers, this gives you an idea, the contact information for them, as well as their email and their website. I can't stress how important it is for you as hospice and home health providers to make sure that your emergency managers in the parishes that you are operating, that you have patients in, that you are making contact with these emergency managers, getting to know them, because while every parish does things a little differently, and it's really important that you know what those differences might be from parish to parish within your service area. You are required to make sure that your emergency manager, the emergency manager in which your office is located, that you're sending them your emergency plan. I suggest,
I'll have to send you the link.
I highly recommend that you send your emergency plan not only to the emergency manager in your parish, but also in every parish that you have patients. Make sure that they have copies of your plan. You have to submit your plan to them at least once, and then anytime you make any changes to that plan, you need to resubmit that plan. And that can be anything from changing all of your protocols to simply changing your contacts within the plan. So it's important that you know who these folks are, that they know who you are, and that's why you need to go and visit them, not in the midst of Tropical Storm Bertha or any other tropical event, but when there are blue skies, when we're not facing a crisis, so that they know who you are. Because in emergency management, this is all about relationships and making sure that we have trusted relationships with one another. To give you a little sense of how many people we're talking about and what the profile of Region 4 looks like, I pulled some data. There's almost 500,000 people living in Region 4, and over 100,000 of them are over the age of 65. We have every year over 3,000 hospice enrollments, and those patients are staying on average about 28 days on hospice. Hospice deaths, though, make up less than half of all the deaths that are actually occurring. So while it's important, the work that you're doing in terms of hospice and home health is important. It's important to remember that that represents only half of the total number of deaths that are taking place in the Region 4 every year. I pulled out some other statistics. So every day in Region 4, there are about 488 patients that hospice and home health agencies are seeing. Now, I'm not saying they're making 488 visits every day. What I'm saying is that there are 488 hospice and home health patients in Region 4 on any given day in Region 4. It's a lot of people that we're worried about. And when we look at that number, one of the things that struck me is that almost half of those folks have been identified as needing assistance in the event of an actual mandatory evacuation of any particular area of the state. This gives you an idea. I went through the at-risk registry this morning, and I noticed that we have a number of hospices and home health agencies that have not updated patients in Region 4 for this past week. We had, for instance, in Acadia, I'm sorry, there are 5 agencies that updated their patients and 4 that did not. In Evangeline, there are 7 agencies that updated their patients and 2 did not. So these are the numbers. We had 207 patients in total updated this week, and another 51 that were not updated, whatever reason. I also did a little further analysis because we've learned some things this year that are important to emergency managers, namely the weight of the patient is really important, especially when they're going to transport those patients. They need to know what type of assistance, how many people it will take to transport a person. We have 19 patients in Region 4 that are 19 patients that have been updated that are missing the weight on that patient. There are another 7 patients that don't have weight who were in the list of not being updated this past week. So you're talking about 26 patients in Region 4 that we don't know the weights of. And weight is important when you're sending folks out to pick them up. we've had patients, bariatric patients reaching 600 pounds, and it takes more than just one person to move these individuals from point A to point B. So that's why that weight is very, very important. There were only three patients that were missing a zip code, and what's that? 30, a total of 37 that were missing date of birth. And those three features we learned in some exercises that we were doing are very important to emergency managers when they're trying to plan in exercises to move patients from point A to point B. And the zip code and the date of birth become part of unique identifiers on those patients, and that's why those are important. The weight, of course, as we said, is always important. So just to recap, right now in the at-risk registry, I have over 2,000 patients, 1,400 of which have been updated. There's 899 that haven't been updated this as of this morning for whatever reason. I want to urge you to go in there and make sure that your patients are being updated. There are 1,100 patients that are missing weight. 620 of those patients were updated as of this morning, but they were still missing a weight. 43, well, only 43 patients are missing zip codes, and 700, that should be 781 patients, not 7,000 patients were missing, but 781 patients are missing their date of birth. So these are some things. We had a tabletop exercise in Region 1 a couple of months ago, not too long ago. And we learned some things that we needed to improve on the hospice and home health side. One is, like we've been saying, that a lot of the patients were missing their weight, the date of birth, and zip, which are important pieces of information that emergency managers need to have in order to organize the transportation for those patients. Another thing that we learned is a big thing that we learned was that when they called the agency to get that information, the receptionist, the person answering the phone in the office, did not know who to refer those calls to. This is really important that you make sure that your frontline folks know when emergency managers are calling, they need to get that call to this particular person in your agency, whether it's the DON or your clinical supervisor, someone who has access to the patient care, the patient's information that may be missing. In one instance, the triage team was placed on an 18-minute hold. Uh, that's unacceptable. We can't hold people on, can't put these emergency managers on an 18-minute hold while you try and figure out who needs to answer that phone. So that's real important that agencies figure this out and correct that immediately. And then as part of the exercise, we had gotten the telephone numbers for the DON, the directors of nursing for these agencies as a backup number. And when they called those backup numbers, we learned that that the DONs were not picking up because they did not recognize the number. And I understand why you didn't recognize the number, but in an emergency, I want to urge you to please pick up those calls, regardless of whether or not you recognize the numbers, because it may be a triage person from LDH trying to reach you, but they're using their they're using their personal cell phones to do this. And so it will not say Louisiana Department of Health triage calling. So that's important for your leadership to remember in an actual emergency, like we may be having today with Tropical Storm Bertha. While there's a lot of wind, I don't see a whole lot of rain associated with the system right now here in New Orleans. Anything can happen. It can all change in a blink of an eye. So it's important during these these high alerts that you answer your phone if it looks like your area is being especially if your area is being evacuated. And finally, patient information has to be consistent in the registry. You can't have a patient can't be both bedbound and ambulatory at the same time. So I want to just point that out to all of our members, all of our providers, that that's an important factor in terms of being consistent. I'm going to pause here, and I'm going to ask the folks in Region 4 to actually come on and tell us about what's going on. First of all, what are you all seeing in Region 4 with regards to Tropical Storm Bertha? What are you anticipating over the next 24 hours? Nikki, do you want to lead this off?
Sure. This is Nikki. I'm with the Office of Public Health. I'm the Emergency Response Coordinator for the region, which includes these parishes. And right now we're just on alert. So we're participating with weather calls and just watching the weather as it's coming in. So that's where we're at right now, is really just on alert. I have reached out to several home health or hospices. Me and Sheila, our hospital nurse coordinator, we reach out usually weekly during the season to just kind of make contact with those agencies that maybe aren't updating their information every week, or maybe when we're looking at the data that they've submitted, it doesn't quite make sense. Like there might be inconsistencies, there might be blank spots. So just overall to remember, if when you're entering patient data, you don't mark that your patient needs assistance, then that means that your OSEP director for that parish is not notified of that patient that may need assistance. So typically the patients that need assistance would need an ambulance transport or a paratransit transport. So you definitely want to mark yes for those patients so that it is on their radar. They get a weekly email that has all of the patients that are marked yes, so that they can kind of see, well, I need 10 ambulances and 10 paratransits if for some reason we needed to evacuate that parish. So it's very important that you have it marked correctly. And I know that there's been some reports about a glitch showing that, you know, it defaults to no. So if you notice that glitch, please reach out to Jamie so y'all can work through that. It is important about the weights because that's very important to the ambulance drivers for them to make sure that they have the right team out there. Just realize that those people that you're marking as ambulance transport, which should typically be your bedbound patients, just realize that those patients are evacuated first. So you're looking at least 3 days prior to the storm. So you need to prepare those families. Like, where are you going that far in advance? Who are you staying with? That should be a discussion ahead of time as you're marking ambulance transport, that you're also having that conversation with the family to understand, you know, where they're evacuating to and look how far in advance you will be leaving the parish. Those patients that are actively dying, like on hospice care, that should be also a discussion with the family, that if you think that those are actively dying, those need to be top priority of where they're going. And the last thing inconsistent I find is that we see diagnoses of like hypertension or diabetes. That may be their diagnosis for the reason that they're receiving home health or hospice services, but realize that for this, it is better maybe to put your diagnosis for the reason why you would need an ambulance, the reason why you would need a paratransit, like if they've had a stroke and they've had left-sided paresis, you know, hemiparesis, or, you know, those types of things versus that typical primary diagnosis of maybe a wound on a hand, because it's not consistent with everything. Anytime you want to talk to Sheila or I, please reach out to us. I've given out our number, but it's also on here. We'd enjoy talking. I see that we have other OSEP directors online. You have your St. Landry OSEP director online. We have Iberia. So if anyone wants to talk to someone, they're here.
Yes, I thank you. You said something that's very important, and I have not mentioned this in a while, but it's really important that when I say you, I'm talking to the home health and the hospice providers, that you're telling your patients, if we're putting you in the registry, you need to be ready to go when the parish is telling you it's time to go. We've had instances in the past where people have said, yeah, I want to be on the at-risk registry. And when they go to pick them up, they say, oh, wait, I'm not ready to leave right now. Well, it's like, no, if you're in the registry, you're going to be on the parish or the region's timeline, not on your own. That's why it's best to try and help patients and their families figure out another way other than putting them into the registry, depending upon the parish or the region, to move them. Go to family members, go to neighbors, go to church organizations, their faith communities, their civic organizations, somebody else who will take charge of that patient in the event of some sort of evacuation. That patient and family will be much more comfortable if they're moving on their timeline and to their place rather than to a special needs medical shelter or the public shelter. These shelters are just wide open, multi-bed dorm gyms that are set up just to provide shelter for the storm. These are, these are lifeboats, not luxury liners. And I can't emphasize enough, our job as providers is to help patients figure out their own emergency plan for evacuation if there's one called. The registry offers a backup when we know that those plans are not feasible or practical. So thank you, Nikki, for pointing that out. Do we have? I know that there's been a lot of construction, road construction, and I'm just wondering if there's been any progress made in terms of if there were to be a mass exodus from the lower portion of like Vermilion and Iberville and St. Mary's Parish, how that construction might impact travel.
Hey, this is Brandon with Iberia Parish. Right now, the construction's not really going to pose that big of a risk to the evacuated population in Acadiana. Maybe a little bit from St. Mary, but it would cause a bigger issue to Acadiana if Plaquemines, Lafourche, all those areas evacuate through. We have one construction area right now in Patouville where they're constructing an overpass, but their DOTD has assured us that there's a detour for that. They're going to open up a service road, and since we don't have contraflow or anything like that in this area, it shouldn't be an issue. There's another construction area in Iberia Parish on 90, whereas they're doing some overlaying, but that should not inhibit any evacuation. They should be able to just pull everything off the road and reopen the road. So right now, we don't have any issues in Acadiana, and I'm aware of down 90 that should cause any evacuation issues. Again, if there's an evacuation from the southeastern portion of the state, we may have some issues, but that shouldn't affect any home health agencies in our parishes.
Thank you, Ms. Miguez. Any other issues that you all want to advise home health and hospice agencies about with regards to their patients?
I would reiterate, Brandon, again, I would reiterate the transportation needs. we've been in discussion with LDH, not necessarily Nikki, but at the state level about when we do these evacuations and having an accurate understanding of what ambulances we need. It's a resource that the parishes really can't provide, so we have to go to the state to get it. And understanding how many we need is really important. So when we look at the registry and it says transportation any, if we show up with a van or a smile van or something like that, and that person needs an ambulance, well, that's a resource we have to go ask for. And so in defense of LDH, they're trying to manage that across several regions and throughout the state. So the more accurate we can get, the better off we're going to be, and the better service we're going to be able to provide to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. And speaking of transportation, I was just wondering, in terms of reentry placards, and are there any placards required or any type of requirements for reentry after during an emergency declaration in Region 4?
I would say each parish is different. And we don't do a regional reentry plan. So I would tell the home health agencies to reach out to us, and we would advise them on what our reentry criteria is, and the necessary steps to be able to get placards if they need placards, and then go from there.
Okay. Do we have any other emergency managers that want to add anything to what we've been talking about? I see Acadia on here.
This is Van from St. Landry.
Yes, sir.
We just had an evacuation because of flooding. I did check the at-risk registry. There was nobody on the registry in the evacuation areas. But if we could get updated email addresses for those people that might have people in our area or in our parish, that would help us, because we do updates by email on like a situational report we send out by email. So it may be good for them to have receive that, so that they're aware of what we're getting ready to do or what we're planning on doing. That might be helpful. I do try to do my best. When I get plans in, I do enter them into my contact list, but a lot of times those emails get bounced back.
When you're asking for an email address, are you talking about the patient's email address or the agency's
I'm
email
talking about
address?
the agency, just so the agency's aware that we're getting ready to possibly evacuate some of their patients. You know, they can maybe check the area. And like I said, I tried my best to put those in my contacts, but this last time we did the evacuation, I got a lot of emails that came back returned, undeliverable. So if I can get updated information, that would be great.
Yes, sir, I'll try and get a list of that together for you, and we'll send it out to the agencies and try and get them to verify that those emails are still, and then send out a clean version to everyone in Region 4. Thank you for mentioning that. And I apologize, Mr. Ross, we will make that correction to Region 3 for St. Mary Parish. Yes, in terms of signing up for the parish alerts, each parish has its own alert system in Region 4.
Yes, for the most part.
Is there like a regional flyer that lists those links for the alert systems?
Nikki's putting them in the chat right now.
Yeah,
Thank
we
you.
don't have something for everybody, but I am including, I'm putting in the chat the ones that you can sign up for quickly, and I even have St. Mary.
Okay.
So that you can sign up for that.
Yeah. Thank you. That's important. And agencies, I want to encourage you to have your staff sign up for those alerts for all of the parishes in which you have patients, but also help your patients sign up for those alerts from their respective parishes. It's another way of increasing the communication between emergency managers and your patients so that they understand what's going on. Thank you. Oh, I see. Are these posters that I'm seeing you put into, are those available online?
Yes,
You can
Iberia Parish, you can go to our parish website and it's available at the bottom of the page.
Okay. Okay. Do we have any other emergency managers that want to saying something directly to home health or hospice agencies with regards to their patients?
Mr. Boudreau, we haven't heard from Homer in Vermilion Parish. I'd like to hear from him.
No, Mr. Boudreau, I'm good right now. I don't have no issue in Vermilion Parish.
Vermilion. Uh-huh.
Brandon.
Are you anticipating some really rough weather later on today and tomorrow in Vermilion?
No, sir. No, it's gonna be quiet.
Fingers crossed. Okay. Anyone else? Do we have any providers that have questions with regards to Region 4? Okay. Well, we talked about credentials. So each parish has their own requirements for reentry after the storm. You're going to have to check with your parishes to see if what those requirements are. In other parishes that we've been doing, that we've interviewed so far, it seems to be if you have the letter from your employer on stationery along with your badge, that should be able to get you through any type of parish barriers. Is that for the most part correct in Region 4?
Yeah, in Iberia, we actually issue a couple we issue placards. We require a letter, an ID, and then in some cases, official vehicle marking. I understand with these home health that may be an issue, but we'll work through that.
Yeah. I think most hospices and home health agencies in Louisiana do not use company cars. They're using their own cars, so that would be an issue. Okay. I do want to remind all of the providers in the at-risk registry, we now have a new column to signify if a patient is actively dying. That applies mostly to hospice patients, and we determine we define active dying as a patient that is non-responsive or what we call transitioning into that active phase. Hospices are pretty well versed in terms of being able to recognize these signs. And if the hospice anticipates that this patient will expire within the next 5 to 7 days, we ask that you mark that patient in that column as yes. It just gives emergency managers a whole lot more information with regards to the fragility of that patient. Let's see. Yes. And to all of our members, LMHPCO, HICLA, and MAC members, we have set up these groups in our website so that you can log in and get the latest information. In fact, Nikki, thank you. I gave you permission. You gave you administrative permissions for Region 4, so you can put any information that you want the members in Region 4 to receive, files and things like that. Messages, you can direct message them and that kind of stuff. So we do have that capability. And if you are a member of HICLA or MAC or LMHPCO, you can just let me know that you want to be included in that group, and we turn it on for in your profile. It's simple, but it can be very, very useful. We do have a recording of how to use the at-risk registry. There's a YouTube recording that is very, very helpful. I know that the job of doing the at-risk registry gets moved around inside of offices, and that's why we put it up in YouTube. There's also a 2-page tutorial that people can read through that takes you over all of the functions and how to perform those functions in the at-risk registry. We have these resources from the National Weather Center that are available to all of you. I will, after today's session, we will be, this is being recorded. Once I get it uploaded, I will put a link in these slides, turn them into PDFs, and then I'll put them into today's calendar so that you can have access to all of these links and all of these slides to share with your agency staff members. We send out a reminder every Thursday morning to do the update. This is required. If you're going to put patients into the registry, it's important that you do the weekly update. I've had a number of agencies over the past several weeks that I've learned think that all they have to do is put the patient's information into the registry and they're done. That's not it. This registry does require that you go in once a week, every 7th day, and that you update that patient saying, yes, this patient is still alive. This patient is still in need of assistance if there's an evacuation order. It's quite simple. It's easy to do. It's simply a log on, hitting a bulk edit button, putting a check mark by everyone's name and hitting submit, and then you're done. Literally, it takes seconds to do, but it has to be done in order for us, when we're sending out information to the emergency managers every Friday morning, that information is actually correct, that it's as accurate and as correct as possible. That's only accomplished with the agency's cooperation of performing that update. We strongly suggest we send this out on Thursday mornings, that you complete that update by the close of business on Thursday, so that Friday morning's reports are accurate. CMS has put up a new link for care in a disaster that you may be interested in, and we will be meeting next Wednesday again. Allison in Region 2 will be handling next week's meeting for me, because we have a hospice conference next Wednesday and that I'll be involved in. But we want to thank you all for your attention today. Are there any questions or comments before we close up today's session?
Hey, Jamie, somebody noted in the chat they were interested in the Region 2 meeting, which was held last week. Is there a recording in
Yes.
the calendar invite that they can go back to last week and click on, or how does that work?
Yes, yeah, all you have to do actually is go to our website at www.lmhpco.org. Under professional resources, there's a drop-down box that says emergency preparedness, and all of the recordings that we've done with each region are actually posted there, and all you have to do is click on those links. There should have been. Yeah, thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Well, I want to thank everybody who's been on today's call for your attention, your time, and the great service that you are doing for your patients and your families in Region 4 and throughout Louisiana and Mississippi with regards to increasing safety during emergency situations. Like I said, we are walking through Bertha right now. I hope and pray that you all are safe and that Bertha stays into the Gulf and south of us. And we'll be watching and waiting. In the meantime, be safe, and we'll see you next week. Same time, same station. Thank you.